Hello, everybody. Welcome to the warm but quiet fireplace behind us. And you'll notice I'm in a cozy sweater. We've definitely gotten a little chillier as this series has progressed. So speaking of chilly, Elisabeth, how is it where you are?
It's raining. It's not yet snow, so I guess it's good news.
Okay. Well, welcome to everyone in the audience or who's watching this on a replay. This is the Fireside Chat series on my channel, and basically I invite creative guests on who are connected to books in some way and love them. And we talk about books, either the reading side or the writing side. And today I have Elisabeth from Bouquins and Books, another lovely Booktube channel. Did you want to tell us a little bit about the channel and what you talk about there?
Yes, well, I started my channel about 2 years ago. I wanted to be a judge for the Booktube prize. I discovered that during the pandemic, and I thought it was just the most awesome thing ever. And I decided, I want to join.
Wow.
So that's why I started my Booktube channel. So I talk about a bit of everything. The books that I read nonfiction. I read the classic fiction, some romance, some mysteries. It turns around that a little bit.
Yeah, nice. That's so funny. See, there's me running the other direction from the Booktube prize, and here's you going, please let me in. That's so funny.
Yes.
It takes all sorts. Yeah, we're all interested in sort of different aspects, so it's nice to sprinkle them in. Variety is the spice of life.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent. So I have some topics we can run through, but first I want to alert everyone to the chat has a poll. Everyone in the live chat, there is a poll. That's how I should say that. And I'm just curious because Elisabeth is in Canada, which is why I made the joke about it being cold. I'm sorry if that gets old very fast. Probably
no,
not.
it's true.
But yeah, if you could name a Canadian author that is not Margaret Atwood was my caveat. So we'll check the chat now and say hello and see if anyone succeeded. So we've got Felicia. Let's see how I do this. I get in the wrong window here. Saying hello. I will say that we're on at the same time as the very beginning of Storyteller's Hearth, which is a big write-a-thon. So about half or more of the people are like furiously scribbling words right now, which Felicia may have joined them, but she did come in to say hello. Anita A.F. Stewart is here. She has a book out today called Fairy Tales and Nightmares. So it's I was saying earlier, this description definitely reminds me of Melissa Albert's books of like intertwined, grim, like fairy tale twists. So if that's your thing, check out Anita's links. R.C. Scott's got one. Craig Davidson. Do you know this Canadian author?
I don't know him. What does he write?
I don't know. I'm guessing
if he writes fantasy, then I don't know much about that. Or horror. I don't read that either.
I would say that's in that camp if RC is suggesting it. Hello. And Elena saying hello. How to put people on timeout. That seems like a StreamYard question. So maybe if you want to come back after, I'll put it in the comments afterwards. So it's not a process question while we're here for content. But yay, nice to see you here. Jeremy Bates. Do you know that name?
I don't think so.
Felicia, I don't know actually what she writes usually. So I don't know if it's going to be like the same genre that you read. Anita's cheating. She's the Canadian author as well. So you could
but Guy Gabriel Kay, at least I know the name.
Yes.
I haven't read his books, but I know the name.
Yes, me too. Let's see. Oh, so Felicia's got Us and the Storyteller's Hearth up. I surpassed my word goal already. Well done. Nice. Very well done. So yeah, so people have answers. I'm surprised because so many people will just say Margaret Atwood, and it just seems very lazy to me. I've read one of her books and I didn't really hit it off, and so I was kind of like, I'll take the adaptations.
I read The Handmaid's Tale 20 years ago, and
yeah,
the only one I've ever read.
I read it more recently, but it just kind of wasn't my type of sci-fi. So,
Yeah.
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 But what type of Canadian literature do you like to read? And maybe give us some other names that you know.
Well, I lean more on the French side of Canadian literature because the people may have guessed that I read in French quite a bit. It's my first language. So I've read quite a few in school, mandatory reading, but
Mm.
as opposed to many of my classmates, I loved it. And many of my classmates just hated it. I
Yeah,
loved it, and I keep reading some more. So I like Gabrielle Roy. You read The Tin Flute recently?
I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah,
And Garden in the Wind, the short stories. So, yeah, I liked them both.
yeah. She's very good. There's Antonine Maillet, Maillet, and she's from New Brunswick, and she writes in the New Brunswick type of French, which is a bit different than the Montreal type of French. And it's she's very interesting too. And who else? Anne Hébert. This one, she lived in France quite a bit, so it's in a way she's more, her language is more mainstream, but not necessarily in the dialogues.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Michel Tremblay. He's so good at writing Montreal.
I've
Like
heard his
Montreal becomes a city when he writes, which is really awesome.
nice.
Yeah.
So you haven't mentioned the one that I tried to read and failed miserably at. And I can't remember the author, but the book is called Marie Chapdelaine. And it was
Oh,
just
I
so
read that.
long. And I, I was like, as a high schooler trying to read that from my high school French, it didn't go over very well.
Yeah, well, it's considered to be one of the first French Canadian novels, not the first, but one of the. And actually, the author was from France. He spent I think he had spent 10 years or 15 years in Canada by the time he wrote the book,
Wow.
but he was from France originally. And yeah, it's one of these, I don't know, bits of foundational myths of French Canada, the people just going to remote regions and trying to make land out of forest. And yeah, I loved it.
Pioneers and frontiers and nothing about the genocide. Funny how that happened. At least on our
Absolutely
side.
not.
At least on our side.
Indigenous people, where? No one's seen them.
Yeah.
No, it's really the time in the first 100 years ago. That one was written in what, 1905, something like that.
Early.
So really, that's no, Indigenous people, they were not really people at the time. It's sad to say.
Yeah. So I've had a little bit of a like dip back into some of the French Canadian, I guess, arts or literature because the Stygian collection, which is an anthology that I'm part of, was made or published from Montreal. And Holly Rhiannon and Pei Vio are a couple of booktubers who are centered in Montreal, and they run, or they're connected with Haunted Montreal, the tours. And she's done like vlogs around the city, and I just feel like, oh, I'm like getting back into little glimpses of the area, which is so cool. So yeah. Okay, so yes, French Canadian literature. What about the reading side? You have lovely reviews of books where you have very cogent reviews, very like detailed and analytical, and I love that as your style. Do you use any
It tends to be more like that when I don't like a book.
Oh, okay.
I like to know when I don't like a book, okay, what's wrong with it? What is not working with it? And that's where I go, okay, this doesn't work. I would have preferred this. And then it goes a bit more like this. When I love a book, it's great. And I have nothing else to say.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, what's interesting, I just saw a big booktuber who said they're doing NaNoWriMo, and I thought, oh, the shoe's going to be on the other foot. Like the reader's going to have to see what it is like to write. And I'm very curious because she's also very analytical and considered in her book reviews, which I appreciate. But now I'm wondering if like the practice of doing that over the years has given her sort of like X-ray vision into, okay, a book has to be like this to be satisfying with her genres. Do you feel like you could tackle something like that after doing like concentrated book reviewing and feeling out those like particular things that you like and don't like?
Well, I actually tried NaNoWriMo a few times.
Oh, you did?
I
Oh,
did,
tell
and
me.
it was an absolute disaster every time.
Oh, what was the fatal flaw? What's the
Well, either no planning, so that's always a fatal flaw. But even if I planned, it takes such a detailed level of planning to actually write a book. To just not a general idea. Okay, then the character will do this. They will meet that person, and they will do this. Okay, yeah, let's go. It's yeah. I don't have any imagination, I guess.
No, well, you've heard of the two schools of thought, right? There's a hybrid in between, but there's a spectrum, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
The two schools being pantsers and plotters.
Yeah.
Do you have a feeling for which you are? Do you think Nano is the opposite, or do you think that you just don't give yourself the time? Or
If I was to write a book, I would have to be a planner. I
mhm.
would not be able to just go figure it out as I go. I don't think it would be any good.
Okay.
I get stuck writing stupid little scenes to get word counts. And you know, the type of scene where you describe everything. The
Mhm.
person got in the car and buckled their seatbelt, started on the engine, and then they drove out of garage, turned left, stopped, and eventually they get to the grocery store, find some parking after turning around the parking lot for a couple of minutes, and then they walk into the grocery store, and then
You know, what's funny is I've read published books like that.
I have a rant on such a published book by a very big author.
Oh yeah.
It's a mystery. It's Elisabeth George. I read one of her books. I tried just one at random that I found, and it was just so detailed, like this, did this,
Mhm.
did that, this is open the door. I know if he gets in that he opens the door. I know
Yeah.
he's not walking
Yeah.
through the door.
Yeah, I read one Elizabeth George as well and considered that enough. I was just
Yeah.
like, I don't like how she zooms in on this type of topic, and it wasn't entertaining enough getting there for me to like tolerate the topic. So I was just like, I think I'm okay.
I
There's
think there was
plenty of
something
other
very
fish.
visual about it, like if it was she was writing the movie or the television adaptation, the image would be this: the person would be walking, knocking, opening the door, and whatever. The person would be doing all that, but
Mhm.
in the book, you don't need the detail.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't know how to compare it to what is happening in the movie industry, because when I see screenplays,
Mhm.
they will say things like that, but they don't do it to that level of detail. So it's both not enough and too much, or
Yeah,
it's too much for both media. Maybe I don't know.
perhaps. Yeah.
Some people like it. I'm sure. I'm sure someone out there does.
Yeah, that she sells millions of copies, so many people love it.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah.
What are you working on now? As in, what will you be reading on your reading sprints, which we can jump into in a minute?
I'm not going to read. I'm going to update my notebook.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because recently I've finished a few books and I haven't updated my notebook, so I'm going to do that.
Oh, the reading journal. That's right. You
Yes, the
mentioned
reading
that. Okay.
journal. Yeah, my trusty reading journal. It's the
What,
way that I know what I've read.
okay. What does yours look like? I'll show you mine.
Show me yours and I'll show you mine.
Exactly. Where's my last page here? The last page is always where I put the books read in the month.
Oh.
But it's the last page in the journal, so it's also like there we go. All my books for 1 month go on one page.
Oh.
And that's all I note about them. So
Okay.
when I go through to do reviews on the channel, I look at this for when and what format, but the reviews I'll have to write notes on before every video, and then they end up getting deleted because it's on a notepad. So it's not a great system for permanence, but then I put them on Storygraph. So how about you? What's your system?
I have one page per book. Can you see there's a lot of glare?
No, we can see.
And I write a few notes, and then at the beginning of the book, I have of the notebook, I have a list of the books that I read. So I can have it's a bit like a spreadsheet, but a manual spreadsheet.
Oh, nice. Okay, and I see colors. I love colors.
Yeah, I think it's pretty. And when I change the page, I change colors. So that was my color scheme for the
Oh my
preceding
gosh!
page.
Look at that! Impossibly precise. That's so satisfying. It looks like a Macintosh window, like stained glass. Nice.
I guess it's the distance. If you look at it from close, it's not that precise.
Hmm.
It's yeah. So I
Oh,
write a few things like, well, obviously the title, the author, if it's fiction or nonfiction, the language it was written in originally, and the language in which I read it, whether the author was a man or a woman, the year of publication, where I got the book. Is it my own book from the library? Number
I
of
put the source
pages.
too. I
Yeah,
think that's important. Do you note the recommender to like help you tell if like the person has the same taste as you? Because I find that's hard for me to track in the background.
yeah. No, I don't have an entry for that, but I write it sometimes in my review if recommended by such
Yeah.
person. Yeah, yeah.
We had another entrant. Hello, Barrett. Barrett's
Hello.
probably at a storyteller's hearth as well. He mentioned Lizelle Sambury for his Canadian author, lovely fellow author tuber, and I've read one of her books. Have you heard of
Oh,
her?
no.
Okay. Well, she writes horror.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so but I mean, I don't read horror, but there was a very like suspense kind of fantasy which I don't know, maybe on this side of the line, maybe outside of the pale for you. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Canada. Thank you, Barrett. And Richard stopped in exactly at the right moment. Hear you talking about manual spreadsheets. He's like AuthorTube's own spreadsheet
Yeah.
evangelist. Yes.
Yeah, it's
Came
nice.
in literally on the word.
Another glimpse. Spreadsheet.
Perfect.
Oh no, there's nothing. Spreadsheet.
Yeah, nice. Such as I love both
Yeah.
styles of record keeping. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's so late for Richard in the UK. Yes, it is.
Must
1
be the middle of the night.
Yeah. Well, 1 a.m. for some people is like early. Who knows? I swear he woke up when the word spreadsheet was mentioned. Yeah. Ah. All right. So record keeping, we're good. And I'm going to say which book I'm reading because
Yeah.
people in the chat might have read this already. It's been out, I think, since 2011. It's
Yeah,
such a
I've
good
heard so
book.
many people talk about it, but
Yeah, I mean, I resisted because everyone hypes this book, especially if you like historical fantasy, because that's what this is, set in the 1880s, but with magic. 2011, yeah. And I'm resistant to hyped books. I kind of don't want to read them if too many people recommend them to me. But this is what was voted on for the Patreon book club, and we're talking about it on Sunday. So now I have 500 pages, and I'm just over 100. So I'm going to be reading this one today.
good.
Oh, yes. Um, we got people saying hello and howdy and how are you in the chat, which is lovely. So why don't we jump into our first 15-minute sprint, if that sounds good?
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
My timer is just the crackling sound effects. So as soon as this goes, it's a 15-minute video and then it stops. So that'll be our indication that we're done. So I'll pop that on and mute myself. Hopefully that doesn't mute the video.
Yeah.
And away we go.
Okay.
And that is our cue. Oh boy.
I'll just finish my sentence. Okay, period.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
We had a few more entries and a funny question considering our little talk earlier. Okay, where did we leave off? Richard said, we love a good crackle. Yep, so satisfying. And then Richard said, does Elisabeth also dig clicky keyboards like me? What's the answer?
It depends on the keyboard. If it's too loud, I don't like it. But the soft clicky of the of laptops in general, that is just so nice.
Yeah. I had a specific model in mind because like the Gateway 2000, the rays that have like a very almost like nails on plastic kind of sound, not
Ooh.
funny. Not
Yeah.
settling, not calming. Makes me do that. So, yeah. But yeah, the ones that have like a little soft key or whatever it's called, there was some technology for it when it came out. Yeah, those are great.
Yeah.
We had another answer here. I'm guessing you don't know this author's name. He's very famous in author circles because he writes nonfiction for authors. So he's part of Draft to Digital, but also instrumental in starting Kobo Writing Life. And if you know, Kobo is like a publishing platform for independent books. So he's like big in the whole publishing circle, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, well, the Kobo's like the Canadian equivalent to the Kindle.
Yeah. And early on, I will say, I got my little Kobo reader, and I was so excited to be like anti-Amazon, but it was too small. Or to be fair, the window was too small, but I was trying to read Bleak House. So that was a lot of text.
Yeah, a lot of little windows. Next.
Yeah, it was like a paragraph per window. It was not the right combination.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So yeah, Shannon says, in the Storyteller's Hearth Write-a-thon, but stopping by to say hi. Ooh, Anita's telling us Mark also writes horror thriller fiction. That's lovely. Thank you for letting us know. Not my genre, but yeah, he's delightful. So it's good to have his name out as a Canadian author in this little chat. Yeah. Is there a readathon for Can Lit, or is it just something that like Jolene?
There used to be one.
There used to be, okay.
There used to be one in July because July 1 is Canada Day, so it was 1 week or 2 weeks, but it hasn't appeared in the last couple of years, so it has disappeared. Yeah.
All right. Well, then here's a tough question for you. What is your favorite readathon?
I'm going to have to say nonfiction November.
It's coming up. It's coming up.
Yeah.
You just gave us your very complicated November TBR. So
the TBR is very short, but the book is very long.
Yes, the TBR is not at all complicated. That was my tongue-in-cheek answer.
Yeah.
So Nonfiction November run by a book olive, and she gives 4 word prompts, and you can assign books to each word or find double dips. But you have done 1 book for all 4, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I found a buddy reader. So
nice.
Yeah, so we'll be 2 reading this. It's going to be much better.
Very good. Very good. I have 1 buddy read going on in November, but it's not for nonfiction. It's for Indigathon. So I just found another person to read this with. Have you seen it or read it?
I haven't read it, but I've seen it and I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I got that from the library like yesterday. So excited to read that. 7 Fallen Feathers, I commented, is on my nonfiction and Indigathon reading list. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that one is heartbreaking, but the good news is that some of these investigations were reopened because of the book.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm sure the author is like, Yeah.
Yeah.
You put it out in the world and that's your like end game hope, but like
Hmm.
sure it feels pretty hopeless when you're just documenting all the terrible things. So
Yeah.
that's good news. Um, so nonfiction November. Good choice. Good
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
You also announced recently a different event, which I'll pop in the chat about rereading. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, well, it's a rereadathon. We are inviting people to reread books because we tend to accumulate them. And I don't know about you, but I tend to feel guilty when I reread because I'm thinking of all the books I haven't read. But rereading is a good experience in and of itself. So we thought that it would be fun to invite people to reread. And we is a bunch of hosts. There's 7 hosts. It originally started with a conversation with me and Anne Novella, also from YouTube. And yeah, now it has turned into a little group of 7 co-hosts,
Nice.
and hopefully it's going to turn into a much bigger group of plenty of rereaders.
Yes, and it's November and December, right? So it's sort of
Well, technically it's December. It's Remember December Rereadathon, but I'm going to start early because
okay.
there's so many books I want to reread. So I figured I'm going to start early.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
And I know that there is no, it's the loaning of books that was hard to find where to put it on Storygraph. The rereads are actually pretty easy. You like edit the book's details in terms of your reading and say you read it again. Here's the date so that it can record both.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't do that too often. The only one I've done that on recently is the Laurie King books, which are mysteries, but it's been long enough that I've forgotten how they all ended. So it's just as enjoyable as the first time.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I was thinking I might try to reread Braiding Sweetgrass. We'll see. We'll see.
Mhm.
There's a lot of books on my maybe list for November, but maybe
Yeah.
By December I'll have
December.
time again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's delightful. Okay, skipped right over how the sprint went. This was making me smile and like ooh and ah, so I'm still enjoying my read. How did the reading journal
Are you
progress?
just at the beginning or are you somewhere
I'm
in the middle?
fifth of the way. I'm 120 out of 500.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I managed to write a review. It's more just impressions for myself, what I remember of the book and how I liked it, of 2 books. And I still have a third one, and then I will have to update my spreadsheet at the beginning.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Nice. One of the things I've been working on during my Friday sprints is like transferring because I did a planner that is like a make it yourself planner. It's just like a
Yeah.
journal that I had to write everything in. It
Mhm.
didn't have enough pages for the whole year. So for
Mhm.
November, I'm having to start the new planner. And so it's like a weird, awkward sort of transition. All my notes are in here. Which do I
Yeah,
redo?
you're working with 2 planners at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. So I've been doing this for like 3 weeks and I'm still not into the new one yet, but I've got a few more days. Ugh. Let's see. I had another question which had to do with okay. So this is one that I talked with my sister about a long time ago, and I like to ask people because I think people have different reasons for the ratio of unread to read. Either way, read to unread books in your personal library. What would you
Um,
estimate?
I think it would be 80% read and 20% unread.
Interesting. So that's more like my sister. I'm basically like the opposite of that because I hold on to fewer and I like all the possibilities that I can pick off the shelf. It's probably
Yeah.
more like 70
I
30.
have a hard time letting go of stuff. That is an issue.
Uh,
Sometimes you watch TV and you see people with issues of various sort, and you think, I'm safe, I'm not going to get that. But when I see hoarders, I'm thinking that could be me. Be careful. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Yeah. You
yeah.
really
Hopefully, I'll never hold on to trash, but like books and
yeah.
childhood stuff, and I could hold on to those forever.
Yeah, paper,
Yeah, paper.
stationery, office supplies. That's my
Yeah, notebooks.
yeah.
Any sheet of paper I wrote something on it, it may be useful. I don't know what's written on it, but it may be useful.
Yes. Um Yeah. It's a victory when I go through like bills to pay or like insurance policies where like every page doesn't have stuff you need. It's just, like copy boilerplate stuff, and I could throw one of those away. I'm like, get out of my house. I don't need your paper because I'm going to keep everything else for way too long.
Yeah.
I've tried to purge. It just doesn't work. It just keeps coming in. No matter what you do, it just keeps coming in.
There's always more, always more.
Oh, Shannon says she's rereading something right now, The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. Next week. I'm reading it next week. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Doing that as part of Vanessa's reading sprints. Okay. And Vanessa is the channel called Read with Dr. B, which is nice. Okay. She's apparently pretty cool. My favorite book right now since like January.
Yeah. That's fun to have a new favorite book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember her talking about this the first time she read it too, because Broadbent sticks in my mind because of Jim Broadbent, the actor. But
yeah.
I haven't read the book yet. Yeah. I bought the paperback earlier this year, but the series got picked up by a publishing house and they're re-releasing the book, so you can't get it until May now. Oh, you're stuck in the middle. I bet the ebook is available somewhere, but Shannon's like, I need it in my hands. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. Okay. So personal library, readathons. Oh, and one of the things I thought was cool to talk about was your challenge of reading or finding Shakespeare in other books. So can you tell us what the aim of that is, or why it'll be fun, and what you expect people to come up with at the end of this challenge?
Well, it's just something I noticed. In September, it was Shakestember. It was a readathon, and it was all about Shakespeare. And then something personal happened. I woke up one day and I had water all over my apartment, just flood. And I couldn't read Shakespeare anymore. It was just too much for my brain. And the only thing I could read was romance. And it so happened that the two romance that I read just right at that moment, both of them contain direct references to Shakespeare, like quotes and direct mention of the plays.
Yeah.
It struck me, and I wondered, how often does this happen in literature? How often is Shakespeare mentioned in books that have nothing to do with Shakespeare? So I thought it would be interesting just to write it down and see in how many books I'm going to see Shakespeare appear in out of context completely.
Is that in your spreadsheet? Is that like a new little column?
It's a new page. I started a new page and I wrote down the first two that I found, and then I didn't read much, or I read something that had no mention of Shakespeare. So I thought, well, that's it. I'm not going to find anything else. And then just yesterday, I found one.
Oh,
yeah, it was in it's a book, nonfiction about the Dutch. Whoops.
Oh, Art and Life.
Yeah, Art and Life, a memoir by Laura Cummings. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a direct mention of Twelfth Night and a quote. And it has nothing to do with Dutch art, which is what this book is about. It's a memoir of loving Dutch art from the Golden Age. And Shakespeare's in there.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, he's everywhere, right? He's such a cultural touchstone for an English-speaking world. I watch Graham Norton shows every once in a while on YouTube because they pop up and they're hilarious. Yeah. And the one I saw today was Judi Dench talking about how much we're using Shakespeare in our daily language and we don't even know it, right? We're referencing without even being cognizant of it. And then Graham Norton makes the point, well, yes, we all do that. But, you just have the full-blown version of Shakespeare residing in your head. You're like a Shakespeare jukebox. And then she recited a sonnet and everyone was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. Which was really cool. I want to be able to do that, but no, I just got the first couple lines. But it was fun.
Yeah, when I was in high school, there was a teacher that made us learn by heart a bunch of poetry and some Shakespeare. And we just had to spit it back. We didn't have to declaim it or anything. We were just spitting the words back. Yeah. And some of them I still remember. Yeah.
Inka York, hello. I've just realized I have Shakespeare references in 2 of my books.
There you go.
We're, just unconsciously carrying it on, or maybe insensibly, or I don't know, maybe it's covert, who knows.
Well, I guess Shakespeare is taught in every English language school, and even English as a second language, we get some Shakespeare mentioned in it. So it's sort of a universal reference. You want someone to sound smart, one of your characters to sound smart? Well, you read Shakespeare.
Or sounds British.
Sounds British.
You don't have Americans to sound smart. Oh, well, yeah.
You want to make him sound like a snob and make him read Shakespeare.
That too. Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes together.
Yeah, it depends how you want to portray it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting what things are coded. Like you can list, you were talking earlier about a style where someone breaks down the actions and that lays a certain feel to the reading, which is boring for both of us, but other people may find it like helps with their tracking of the blocking. I don't know.
Mhm.
But when you're talking about someone saying a line of dialogue a certain way or having a certain book in their hand or going to a certain bookstore, like it's called of like a Shakespearean pun or something, like there's these little indications, and if you're receiving the signals, you're understanding some sort of like cultural passwords, but that could be lost on other people, just
Yeah.
as many such other things are lost on me, I'm sure.
Well, I'm sure that when we read Shakespeare, we lose all of these things, all of these references, because we don't have them anymore from the
Right.
16th century. So now it's Shakespeare that is the reference, but in Shakespeare, there are other references,
Yeah.
and we don't necessarily get them.
That's why you have footnotes. That's why you
Yeah.
have to read it in school.
A lot of footnotes.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Has there been any Shakespeare reference in this book? I don't think so far.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But I'll try to keep my eye out for that. Are we ready for our second little reading sprint? All right. Well, it'll take us past the hour a bit, but hopefully that will be all right.
No
Oh,
problem.
there we go. And start. I'll mute. And there's that crackle. Okay. Yeah. Shannon's an early dragon, so she'll probably turn in soon. And Inca is a night owl. Hoot! I love it. All right, see you in 15 minutes. we go. I was about a minute early. I forgot to put the banner up completely. This is how we roll. This is how we roll. We're not too formal about things. What can I say?
No, it's a chat by the fireside.
Exactly. Exactly. So did you finish your reviews?
Yes, pretty much. I just have to update my my spreadsheet, and yeah, I'll be good to read more books.
Awesome. What are you reading at the moment?
I'm between two books. I don't know. I have a whole bunch of books from the library that I put on hold, and I had put them on hold weeks ago, and now they're here, and I don't want to read them.
Oh no, the
And I
mood.
feel like I should, but
Yeah.
yeah. No, I think they'll go back to the library unread. I think I'm going to start my nonfiction November project. It's big enough.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had any sort of revolution in your library system in Canada, but here I know several different systems that just abolished late fees because people like the pandemic and everything was just so irregular that they were like, why are we doing this when our mission is this and access and da 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 da. So like I just keep books and they automatically renew unless someone else has requested them. So
Yeah,
yeah.
we have something similar. Unless somebody else requested them, in that case, you have to bring them back. There
Mhm.
are some express books that you have. You have for 1 week. You can renew them once, and that's it.
Mm.
Other books you can keep for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As evidenced by the pile I have behind my laptop. One that I got it that I have had for weeks, but I did just recently start is this one. I'm trying to
Yeah. Carrie by Toni Jensen.
yeah, and I'm she's Métis, so I'm trying to remember if I think she's American though and not Canadian, or maybe she has family in both areas.
Is that possible?
I
I
think so.
thought Métis were only in Canada because they descend from a mix of French Canadian, well, French Canadians, and either Cree or Algonquin people.
I think she has family in both places, but she
Oh,
is
it's possible.
well, it doesn't say her nationality in the bio, but she teaches at the University of Arkansas.
Well, she
And
probably has both nationalities anyway.
perhaps.
Yeah, well, it's automatic if you are North American Indian. You have both Canadian and American passports.
Oh,
You can serve in either army.
I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah. It's
That's
like the border does not exist for North
yeah,
American Indians.
yeah,
So even if you're from a place that's not even close to the border,
yeah.
you have automatic citizenship to both countries.
Turtle Island.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't know that. Um, yeah. So again, I'm not very far through it. Let's see, where's my bookmark? Here we go. Where I'm going through maybe like 10%. But she's talked about Standing Rock, and she's talked about um, the people in fracking camps and how like that becomes its own sort of mentality, and like the town changes when that sort of thing comes to town.
Mm-hmm.
But then also like racism and stuff. So it's very interesting, and her style is very interesting. So um, yeah. It's gonna be very bite-sized chunks because it's like every little piece is pretty affecting. I don't know if you have books that you've read that are like, I have to take it in small bites.
Well, a few books for the Booktube prize.
Mm,
I don't choose the books. The books are assigned to me by the computer, by other voters who decide which books are good.
mm.
And not this year and not last year too much, but a couple of years ago, there were so many books on sexual assault. And
Oh,
it was sometimes you had two to read in the month. And yeah, I would read a few pages and I would say, okay, enough. I'll go read a cute romance.
yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think this has been out. I think I've had this from the library for 3 months. No one else has requested it. So like,
But I think we have a limit of I think we can renew it 4 times. So with 3 weeks each time. So it ended up being 5 loans. So the first original loan and then renew it 4 times.
Mhm.
So that's it. About 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just glad we have the libraries. I'm drafting a newsletter for a few days from now, and I'm one of the things I'm asking people to do, because I'm pretty sure they've already read my books if they're on my newsletter list, or they're tired of hearing me ask them to read them. So my ask this time was, can you request my books in your library? Here are the ISBNs. Like, make it real easy, because that's a great way to get it to more people. And
Exactly. It's
yeah,
true. Yeah.
so just, tip for any of those authors out there looking for something else to ask that doesn't take money, just takes time and a little bit of like persistence, because some different systems have different ways of asking and it can be a little complicated. But
Yeah. Well, in Ottawa, I've asked twice. And the first time it took 4 months before I got an answer.
oh boy.
And the second time is still pending.
Wow. Were they for new releases?
Yes. Well, it's one of the rules that they have to be books that have been published in the last 2 years.
Oh, interesting.
So you cannot ask for a book that was published 20 years ago.
Oh, interesting. I guess that probably streamlines the we can't get it because it's out of print response, because yeah.
It could be a book that they used to have and then they got rid of it because nobody borrowed it and they don't want to pay for it again.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Libraries are fascinating.
Yeah, I wish that there would be a session, Ask a Librarian, and I would have so many questions.
Yeah. Well, we have a few librarians on Booktube. I know Carrie, I think, is a school librarian, literary Carrie, and Bookish Realm. Ashley is a librarian.
Yes, and Lindy's Magpie Read used to be a librarian.
Okay, yeah. So maybe, just ask them to be like, hey, can I pick your brain? That'd be fun. That'd be fun. Well, I think we're drawing to a close here, and I want to be able to let people go off to their evening plans and weekend plans.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for coming on my channel, being a Fireside Chat guest. Pop this up and ask people to saunter on over and subscribe to Bouquins and Books. I never know what to make the liaison, if I should say Bouquins and Books or whatever, but there we go.
I make the liaison. So
okay, there we go. And I didn't know if this was true, but bouquin is roughly translated to novel or book, or how close?
Book.
Just book.
Yeah. It's just another word for book. I think it's derived from the English word because we have the word livre, which is perhaps the more generic. Mm-hmm. But bouquin is also a legitimate word for book. So my channel's name is Books and Books.
Books and Books.
Yeah. It's basically that, books in French and books in English. Books and Books.
Yeah. Well, I remember learning about it through the context of the bouquiniste.
Yeah.
Bouquiniste on the Seine. And so that was always like the little paperback.
They were selling books. And
so I didn't know if it had a more specific context.
But to shop for book is to bouquiner.
To bouquiner. I like it.
To shop for books.
Yeah. Oh, I'll have to work that into my next, I don't know, vlog or something. I'm going to do vlogs for NaNoWriMo, so we'll see. We will see how that goes. But it's been delightful having you on the channel. Thank you so much. And
thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Thank you for watching, everybody. Happy reading. Good luck with this start to November, whether you're reading or writing or both. We'll be with you either way. All right. Have a lovely weekend, everybody.